That sounded like shit. Hello everyone, and welcome to my video. If you feel the need to like or subscribe, that would be badass. If not, well, that's cool too. You don't have to. You know, we could just chill out every once in a while, stop by, we'll talk in the comments, everything's good. I know most of you guys that watch any of my videos, you know me as a video game streamer, Conqueror's Blade, usually. But today, I decided to do something a little different. I just got back a bunch of comics from CGC, and I want to share the grades with you. Without further ado, let's start checking out some comics. Okay, this first one I actually bought when it came out. It came out in November 1992. It's Spider-Man 2099 #1. This is a newsstand edition. I got a 9.6, which is pretty good for a newsstand edition for this particular book. I bought this at a local convenience store down the road from my house, and when I went there, they have a small rack of comic books, and that was my first stop of the day when I would go comic hunting. And I grabbed all of them, and I paid for them, brought them home, and I threw them in a box. And that's where they stayed for about, I'd say, 12, 15 years. And I didn't put a bag on them, I didn't put a board on them, nothing. So I was pretty impressed that this one came out at a 9.6. After I dropped all these comics off at my house, I left and went downtown to a local comic shop. They had a very small shop down there. They had like one wall of comics and maybe 3 long boxes full of older comics. I went down there to see if they had any more because, I saw it was Spider-Man #1, so I was like, well, this is going to be the newest, greatest, latest thing. So I wanted to get all that I could. We actually had a limit on these books down at the shop, so I could only get one of them. But yeah, I kept these all these years and just sent them out to get graded not too long ago. And this one, I actually got a 9.8 on. That's usually how it goes, though. Like, the newsstand editions are usually a little more beat up, just because, they're going to drugstores, mom and pop shops, things like that. They get a little more beat up. The main character of this book, his name is Miguel O'Hara, and actually, the writer of this book, Peter David, took the name Miguel from an actual friend of his and incorporated it into the name of this character. I thought that was pretty cool. If I was a writer, I would be using my friends' names all the time. Miguel O'Hara is kind of like a Mexican-Irish name, and I believe that came from Miguel's mother had an affair with the father's boss. So, yeah, I mean, even in comics too, there's asshole people. Anyway, the penciler in this book is Rick Leonardi, and the person who inked this book is Al Williamson. Fun fact about this comic, this is the highest selling single issue of any comic book ever written by Peter David. I mean, can Al Williamson say the same thing? Is it the highest selling single issue of any comic ever inked by Al Williamson? I don't know. Does the internet have those facts? Can you look that up? I mean, is that something I can look up, 5 minutes before I make a video and pretend like I knew it all along? I don't know. Maybe. This book actually wasn't the first appearance of Spider-Man 2099, Miguel O'Hara. His first appearance was in Amazing Spider-Man number 365, the black hologram cover of the 30th year anniversary edition. That came out in August 1992, and this book came out in November 1992. So there's a few months difference there. But then there's some more controversy. A lot of people think that the red hologram cover was actually his first appearance, and that was Web of Spider-Man number 90. And that one actually came out a couple months before the black cover did. So I guess I'll just let you guys fight that out in the comments. When I first got this book, I thought it was going to be the latest and greatest, new title that was going to take me to the moon. But it just seemed like every time I looked it up, year after year, it was always $8. Like forever. Like even into the 2000s, it was always $8. And I never thought it was going to move. But then last year, 2023, the movie Across the Spider-Verse came out, and it actually had, Spider-Man 2099, Miguel O'Hara in it. And it just seemed like the price jumped. It jumped like a 9.8 was around $250, $260 at the time. It's come down quite a bit to about maybe $130, maybe $120. You probably get lucky and get one for $90, but I think the next Spider-Man 2099, movie that he makes an appearance in. When that comes out, I think it'll jump back up there. Newsstand copy is the 9.6, and the direct copy is a 9.8, and they're actually both worth about the same amount because the newsstand edition is worth a little bit more, and it kind of counterbalances the 9.8. This next comic is one that I bought probably 2 months after it came out, and it is X-Men 266, first full cover appearance of Gambit. I'm going to say it that way because is it really the first appearance of Gambit? Kinda not. Kinda. His first actual appearance, everybody's saying, including me, was X-Men Annual number 14. And I know a lot of people are saying that the annual he was in was just a cameo appearance, but I read the book and he was in like over a page and a half, and they used his name, and he made like a full body appearance. So I don't know. I guess I'll let you guys fight that out in the comments also. And if you guys haven't seen X-Men Annual number 14, I have a copy right here. I haven't graded it yet, but maybe in the future. Just so you guys can see what it looks like, and maybe if you see it in a bargain bin somewhere, you can pick it up. It's getting there, though. It's getting a little bit more expensive. The cover looks a little busy compared to X-Men number 266. And, to be honest, X-Men 266 is probably the book that everybody wants. The writer of this book was Chris Claremont. The pencil was done by Michael Collins, and the cover art was done by Andy Kubert. Interesting story. I actually went down to the local comic shop probably 2 months after this book came out, and I asked the guy there. They had like 3 long boxes of old back issues, and I was like, "Do you have X-Men number 266?" Because I heard there's this new character Gambit in it. The guy's like, "Yeah, we got one in the box over there." So I went and I checked it out, and the back of it had this weird rippling thing going on. It was like a spot like this big, and it was like very small but straight wrinkles in it. And then it had like a little tear in it like that. And I remember there was a $7 price tag on it. Actually, it was an $8 price tag. And I went up to the guy, and I'm like, "Hey, do you, it has this rippling back here, and it has this little tear. Do you think I could get it, $1 off, like $7?" And he's like, "Let me see that." And he takes the book, and before I could do anything about it, he rips off some tape, off the tape dispenser, puts a tape on that rip. And I'm like, "What are you doing? You just ruined that book. You don't put tape on comic books." Because I've seen tape on comic books like that have been on there for 10 years, and it just gets all yellow and goopy and stuff. And the guy kind of felt bad, for doing that, I guess. He obviously wasn't a collector himself. He's just a kid that worked there. And he actually gave me the book for $7. I had that X-Men 266 book for a long time. I ran into a problem. Some guys robbed my storage unit, and they must have grabbed the box of comics, and that comic was in it. I also lost a bunch of Pit comics and some Spawn comics, and what else was in there? My X-Men 266 was in there. Oh, Punisher. I had probably 5 Punisher number 1s, and 3 of them were in there. And they must have got that box because I never saw them again. I didn't actually notice the comics were gone out of my collection until about 6 months ago, when I started getting into collecting comics again and grading them and stuff. And I was just distraught over it, pacing back and forth for days. For days, I would talk to anybody about me missing this X-Men 266 comic. I was like, "Man, someone stole that comic. I really like that comic, because I wanted to, fix it up, clean it, press it, get it shipped out." But yeah, so I talked myself into buying one off of eBay. I'm like, well, if I lost my Gambit X-Men 266 comic, I'm going to get another one. So I ended up buying this one for about $70. And it was pretty dirty, had a few little minor wrinkles in it, but I thought I could press them out. And sure enough, I got the book, I cleaned it up. It took me hours to clean this book up. And I pressed it for 24 hours and sent it in. And I got a 9.6 on it. It was a pretty good investment for, a $70 buy. But anyway, let's move on to the next. This next book I actually bought right when it came out in May 1992. And it is Spawn #1. I think everybody has a Spawn #1 in their collection. I can't believe that this is the book I bought when I was a kid, and I actually got a 9.8 on it. I mean, when I bought comics as a kid, I didn't put them in bags and boards and and keep them nice. I just put them in a box, stacked them up on top of each other. This book was printed with such high quality paper. The cover was high quality, thicker paper, that it just withstand the test of time. And it's just amazing. I probably put it in a board and bag, probably 15 years ago or something. But before then, it just sat there, with all the elements. This book is probably worth about $150 at a 9.8, maybe a little more. It varies from time to time. There was so many of these books printed when it came out. There's probably like 200,000 of these books printed, and there's probably 14,000 graded copies of this book. And that's probably why it's not worth as much as it should be, because it's really, really popular. The writer, artist, and the cover artist of this book was actually Todd McFarlane. He pretty much did the whole thing. He actually came out with the Spawn character before he even worked for comic books. He just held on to it and didn't want to show anybody his idea. He waited until he started his own company, and then he revealed the Spawn character that he created. Todd McFarlane didn't actually start reading comics until he was about 15 or 16. Before then, he didn't really know what comic books were. His real dream was to become a professional baseball player, but he suffered an injury that kind of put a damper on those plans, and then he decided he wanted to be a comic book artist. He had no art background, didn't know how to draw, and he was all self-taught. He would come home after work and spend 4 or 5 hours after work every day practicing drawing, figure drawings. He would draw whole scenes, whole pages. He'd fill a page full of all kinds of heroes. He would buy more comic books and try and mimic the stances and different poses of other comic book heroes. He actually started turning in artwork to all the different comic book companies, and I believe he was sending in 30 or 40 different submissions a month. And by the end of the year, he turned in 700 submissions into, I think, Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, any comic book company that, would take in submissions. I think the story goes that the artist that worked for the book, Coyote, either walked out or got fired or quit or something like that. And they didn't have anybody available to finish that book. And the execs were talking like, who are we going to get? We need somebody quick. And they looked on the desk, and lo and behold, Todd McFarlane's submission was sitting right there, because he would send in 30, 40 submissions a month. So one of those were sitting on the desk. So they gave him a call to see if he was available. And he's like, hell yeah. So he came in, and his first book was Coyote number 11, I believe. He continued drawing that title. I think it lasted like 3 more books, and then it ended up fizzling out. But that's where he got to start, and the rest is history. I forgot to mention that newsstand copies of Spawn #1 are very rare, and it was probably like for every 10 books printed, there was 1 newsstand copy printed. But after publishing, those copies became less and less, because the mom and pop shops, the drugstores, the convenience stores, they had the capability of sending the books back if they didn't sell. They would rip the cover off, send it back, and get a portion of their money back. And that's what happened to most of them. So the newsstand copies are worth way more than the normal direct copies.